Hello, I bid you a very warm welcome to episode 40 of Women of the Future. Today's episode will focus around feminine collaboration, and in this series we are looking at women of the future, how she thinks, functions and operates within society, and what she does to empower herself. Sister Denise, I bid you a very good day.
Thank you.
Feminine collaboration, it's not something that one normally thinks about or talks about. However, as far as Women of the Future is concerned, it's a relevant topic, isn't it?
It's very relevant because normally the society that I've been speaking about, the patriarchal society, sets women against each other by creating a pecking order, by creating jealousies artificially, and by making it difficult to collaborate. And so women who are oriented towards a future society that's much more balanced and collaborative, the women will have to really see each other's personhood, because otherwise, if you just see again with the eyes of the patriarchal society, you're in an adversarial relationship with other women. You're in competition with other women, and so you could never collaborate. But once you start thinking of personhood and you start relating to the inner being from the perspective of your own inner being, there you're operating very differently, and natural collaboration occurs, because in order to get beyond the immediate duties, you can say, that are there for women of the house and so on, children and all, if you don't collaborate, you never get out of that arena. But if you collaborate, then you can actually get into a wider arena, and you can experience your personhood with each other and differently among men.
Why is it that so few women support other women?
Well, mostly it's because the patriarchal system of society sets it up like that so that they can't. Because the setup is where women are put in positions that are antagonistic to each other, and so you have to operate independently of the system and not buy into the system in order to do that. You see, because the system promotes certain prejudices. For example, it says women can never get along with each other by definition. And in order to prove that, it engenders squabbles and then says, look, there's the proof. It's rather childish, but anyway. I think that once you can see it for what it is, you will no longer be caught up in the sort of artificial reverence that is given to it, because it is artificial. You can only really revere something that is worthy to be revered. If you just revere something because you're supposed to, you have to check. Is it worthy? And again, as you come into your personhood, the other women around you are having dimensions of great interest to their personality, their characteristics, and so on. Everybody's different, and everybody can be very complementary to one another. And so everything has to do with coming out of this patriarchal system and reinventing a relationship of equality with other women, of being complementary with other women. And then it'll be very natural to help, to collaborate, to work with instead of working against.
You have mentioned this in previous episodes, but I think it's relevant to this one. Humanity has reached a state of its weakness, hasn't it?
Yes, it's very weak.
So when women are in the particular condition that they are, which is at their weakest, collaboration is impossible, is it not?
Well, when you have hit your weakest point and the energy starts going up, then you may be weak, but you're not weakest, and you're becoming stronger because there are energies going on that you can tap into that enable you to gather your strength. And part of it has to be connected with your spiritual education, where you really learn different ways of interacting, different ways of looking at people.
Okay, so my point is that when women are at their weak stage, perhaps not weakest, but weak stage, is it not the case that one's insecurities and jealousies and things like malice appear rather than collaboration? And what we see more of in the world is women trying to take each other down, not lifting each other up.
That's absolutely true, but what I'm saying is that it doesn't only come from the fact that women overall, and men also, are relatively speaking weak. It's also a setup in the system. So one is you're weak, and the other is the system makes sure you're weak. Now, once you stop buying into the system, that's one level of weakness that's no longer operating. And once you start to cultivate your spirituality, you're getting stronger, you see. So that other level of weakness is moving away. Also, as you start to get an education, you become aware of what the provocations are that kind of force you into the bickering or the jealousy or the malice or whatever it is. Once you get into your spirituality, you start to be able to point your finger at those external things that press your buttons to make you behave in a certain way. Now, you don't have to go along with that. As soon as you get a little bit of insight, a little bit of spiritual power, you can say no to that. Plus, with your spiritual education, that's also going to encourage you to see it, recognize it, and act on it, and then develop a new way of being with your fellow women.
A new way of being. That sounds refreshingly lovely, I must say. I think the world is in need of a newness of that caliber, because we're surrounded by so much of darkness and so much of ugliness. And Sister Denise, we see that weakness that you were referring to spiritually manifesting in women showing their dark side, point number one. And point number two, we see evidence of victims all across the globe.
Yes, and to me it's a setup, it's a tradition, it's a sanskar, it's a momentum that the society has gotten into, and it sort of pulls everything in its path into this this movement. And where is it going? It's going into a very destructive place. And do we want to do that? Do we want to go there? Or would we rather not go a different way, you see? And I think once one or two pioneers start showing a different way, other people are going to see, yep, that's right, this is a better way, let's go.
It takes a measure of internal power to promote another human being, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but at the same time, I think what it really takes is for you to be so complete in yourself and in your self-honor that it really contributes to that for you to promote another one. You don't want to be all by yourself with everybody else put aside. That's not interesting. You want to really encourage people to come up. Why would I fly on the top layers with all by myself? I want the others there too.
Explain to us the meaning of being stable in one's self-honor.
In Hindi, we use the word swaman, and you can interpret it in a lot of different ways. And one is, you know, the respect that you accord to yourself, looking at yourself with the same eyes, the same angle that God looks at you, seeing your value, seeing your potential, seeing everything that's good about you. But the conventional way is to see what's wrong with you, to see what your flaws are. So that's going to make you depressed. But spirituality says, why would you look at that? It's not of any relevance to anything. Use your third eye to see those things that are not visible to your two eyes. So it's really a shift of perception, a shift of perspective, where you really start looking from the inner eye.
Wow, that is very powerful. Sister Denise, everyone has a certain level of ambition, that you want to make something of your life, you want to become someone. And ambition in this century means climbing on top of other people to get where you want. Now that appears to be the antithesis of collaboration. How does one climb to the top and have an ambition, a healthy sense of ambition, without harming anyone else in the process?
Well, you described ambition as the urge to be someone, but if you're already someone, you don't need to be someone, you're already someone, you want to accomplish something.
Okay.
You see, and that's different, okay? You say, well, I'm already fine, I'm already powerful, I don't need power, I don't need recognition, I'm already perfectly fine the way I am, but I have a lot of energy here. What am I going to do with it, you see? And so I think the ambition lies in seeing, well, you know, let's see if this project or this idea is possible. Put your energy behind it and bring your sisters with you and see what we can accomplish. It's not about me becoming someone or something. I am already.
There are far too few on the planet who think like that. Far too few. My next question. It is very common to see a woman, when she does collaborate with others, only collaborate with people of her own kind. Birds of a feather flock together and all of that. Mm-hmm. How can one move away from that kind of thinking to being more cosmopolitan in one's attitude? If I'm putting it correctly?
Well, if I look at my own self, you know, if I say, okay, I have a project and I want to see if it can be done, because I like that sort of thing. And I'll see who's around, you know, or who's interested. And they could be from different races, different cultures, different intelligence levels or whatever. You need everyone. I always look for people who are honest, because I don't think you can learn honesty. You can learn all the other skills, but not that one. And if a person is, you know, the same inside and outside, I'll say, yeah, come. Because then, you know, we learn together the necessary skills. But if somebody has all these hidden agendas and whatnot, then I would definitely, you know, not choose them first. That's just me. But I think that you can't just choose everybody equally. You have to choose on the basis of something. But that's the criteria that I use.
So if one has only the habit of collaborating with somebody of your own kind, how does one extend that circle of collaboration? You used yourself as an example. Mm-hmm. Sister Denise, you are atypical.
Well,
you're the exception. I'm talking about the masses. People stick to their own kind, Sister Denise. That's the way the world works.
Well, you see, is it necessary to get people to do something that is alien to them? I think what we can do is not necessarily set standards that we think other people should live by, which they may or may not want to or may not be able to. But I think if you demonstrate an inclusiveness, that you include different religions, you include different races, you include artists, scientists, every variety, you're not really going to discriminate, this kind is okay, that kind is not okay, or I only want people from this particular region of the world. No. Inclusive doesn't mean that you select people who don't seem to have aptitude. That doesn't make much sense to me. But if somebody wishes, and maybe they say, you know, I really don't know how to do anything, but I'm willing to learn, you know, then you will say, okay, let's see if what you say is true, you know. But, you know, you have to have power of discrimination, you have to be good judge of character, and see what works, and work with what you have, you see. Because you may not have the best, most perfect or whatever in terms of competency, but making a team and building a team that works and works together, and finding, you know, everybody's capability and competency and what they really want to do, and are they happy and so on, you know, that's also good criteria.
What does one get out of collaborating with other women? The reason I'm asking this is because most women, in terms of what they achieve, tend to go at it alone, because there's very little collaboration available. There's a lot of spite, malice and jealousy, but very little collaboration. So my question is, what does one gain from collaboration? Sister Denise, the attitude that exists against collaboration is that the more people you include, the weaker the accomplishment.
Well, that's not why you're doing something. You're not doing it so that I become famous, or I can put my name at the bottom of something. You know, it actually never happens that one person alone achieves something. You never can do that. There's lots of people involved in that, and you have to admit that and acknowledge that. And I think one of the gains of collaboration is you're much more honest about what you're doing, because it's not honest to take all the credit and forget about all the people who did, you know, collaborate anyway. Another thing is you're loved, you know, when you collaborate, and the love, you know, the pure love of a woman for women is very supportive, and I think is a kind of glue that holds society together, because at the moment it's breaking apart and we need some of that glue.
Pure love of a woman for women. Say more about that. That's a beautiful sentiment.
Well, you know, you've been raised to be antagonistic, and that's a very false way to be, and it somehow destroys an important thing within yourself. But, you know, women do many things together, which is of great importance, and they do many things together with men. I mean, the society is made up of all varieties of people, and your accomplishment as a gathering of women, there are examples of things that gatherings of women have done, which have carried a whole community forward, and this isn't something that can be possible when women are against each other, you see. So it's a very powerful thing, and it also is a very good message to the young women who are coming up, you see, because the patriarchal angle sets people against each other, and that is very damaging for the society as a whole and to the women individually. But when you have the pure love of a woman for women, she will gather up those girls and women and enable them to value each other and create something that is much greater than the sum of the parts.
In terms of one's spiritual effort, How does including the presence of the divine help in this scenario? I see that you include him in everything that you say. I'm just curious to know how he will function amongst a group of women.
Well,
what is his role?
You know, the divine being is so subtle, and really has a capacity to tune the individuals with each other by getting the individuals to tune to that supreme self, you see, because once you're connected with God in gathering, you're also connected to the other members of the gathering, and that creates cohesion in the gathering, and it also destroys negativity, mistrust, and so on and so forth. And so it's a very, very important ingredient, but very, very subtle. And I think the speciality of women, because they're so internally oriented, is women can work with this energy possibly more easily than the menfolk.
Why is that so?
Because of the sensitivity.
Yes, Denise, you know, when you have a group of people together, the best case scenario is that the best in one emerges, but one can't ignore the reality that if you have the wrong kind of people placed together, it is a clash of personalities rather than the opposite. So that cannot be ignored. Feminine collaboration sounds like a wonderful idea, and when it works, but it can turn ugly. Let's not ignore that. How does one work with that? One can have the aim of being part of a feminine movement for the promotion of women. It sounds wonderful, but we're all different. We're all individualistic. We all have our own agendas. We can not work as well as we can work together.
I think that's not the point. The point is, when you have many different people together, thrown together, you must never be afraid of conflict.
And not just afraid, Sister Denise, have the inability to handle conflict because we were not taught how to handle conflict from the sage.
Let's learn. Let's learn, because, you know, being able to handle conflict is a very important skill. We should never be afraid of difference of opinion, but we need to learn how to arrive at consensus. We need to learn how to negotiate. We need to learn how to agree to differ. All of these various things are totally valid. It doesn't mean that you can't operate as a gathering just because you don't agree. And there's an interesting analogy that's given for the spiritual gathering. It's compared with a stone machine, a stone smoothing machine, or even a torrent of fast-moving water down the mountains. The stones bang against each other and the rough edges come off, and you end up with beautiful smooth stones. And so the gathering of Brahmakumaris very much works on this principle, that you keep yourself with each other regardless of whether there's clash or not, until everything is nice and smooth, but you're not afraid to clash.
Well, if you put it that way, why not? Okay, Sister Denise, any last words before we say goodbye to our women folk watching us?
Well, I think the most important thing is to really consciously and conscientiously set aside the prejudices that there are around women's inability to operate together. And just because you're individual doesn't mean that you can't collaborate with someone who's very different. I mean, you and I are very different, but we're still talking.
For now, yes.
But, you know, we're not dependent, you see, on the other being a certain way in order to be able to operate, you see. So that means each one has to be their own person in their own right. And very often women are taught that you're only half a person, you keep looking for your other half, you know. and 2 half people don't make a whole. It makes more like a quarter.
Right. Okay.
You know, so very much about, you know, see yourself as a complete person. You come into relationship with others. There are a great necessity to set boundaries and really learn about consensus building, negotiation, managing conflict, managing anger, managing all these things. These are really good skills to develop. And if you don't have any problems, you won't acquire the skills. So these problems are learning circumstances.
Okay. Okay, so thank you. Thank you. There you have it, feminine collaboration. If this is not a subject that you have applied your mind to in the past, I suggest you do so today. Sister Denise has thrown out a new idea, perhaps not brand new, but a refreshingly new idea as to how we can, as women, get together in groups for our own promotion as well as for the promotion of our sisters, whatever your aims and ambitions may be. I think that once one can get such a scenario to work, it can only be beneficial to one individually as well as collectively. And what's wrong with that? So thank you, Sister Denise. It's been a wonderful half hour.
Thank you.
I've learnt a lot, and I thank you on behalf of women folk watching you for expanding our understanding. So thank you for that. Thank you at home for joining us, and we will see you again for the next episode. Take care. Cheers.